Hmm? Hmm? Hmm. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. Beena this side. So today I'll be discussing the analysis for the third day Maharashtra MBA CET 2026, which is held on 8th April. I'll go with slot 1 analysis, which was held from 9 o'clock to 11:30 in the morning. So let us go with the analysis as we say for the first 2 days. So following the same thing, the paper pattern remains the same. You had 4 sections wherein 75 questions for LR, 50 questions for mathematics, 50 questions we had for verbal, and at the same time 25 questions for abstract. So in total, we were provided with 200 questions for 150 marks, and there were no negative marking. So let us just go with the section-wise analysis, starting with the very first section, which is abstract reasoning. I'll go with. So abstract reasoning, in total, we had 25 questions. If I talk about the varieties which we had, so starting with the water image, starting with the mirror image, in total, we got three questions, which is 6. Some questions were based on similar pairs. So in total, we got 7 questions approximately of similar pairs, wherein you were supposed to find the same logic-based question. Moving on with the next type, which was odd one out. We got 3 questions of odd one out. We had 5 similar frames, and out of those 5, one was the odd one. So we were supposed to find the odd one out. Next was the substitution type, that which frame should be substituted to form it to series. So there was 1 question of it. Then talking about next term or the missing series or the next frame. So in total, we were provided with 3 questions all. So 2 questions which were based on to find the next frame in the series, and 1 question was based on to find the missing one in the series. So it was very easy and doable. Moving on with the 3 more varieties. One was the formation based question. We were supposed to form a square. So there were 5 such figures given, and out of that, you were supposed to club any 3 to form a square. A very simple variety and doable. And the last 2 were based on the embedded figures and the hidden figure, one question each. So in total, therefore, we got 25 questions. So on an average, if anybody asks or any based on the student's perspective, what should be the minimal number of attempts with respect to good attempts, if I say. So out of 25, anybody who has practiced really well, you should be able to solve 20 to 22 questions for sure. Absolutely easy and doable. Now let us move on to the next section, which is verbal. I'll go with. So verbal, we had in total 50 questions. Again, starting with the reading comprehension, first of all. So reading comprehension, we had 4 RCs this time, and each RC set had 5 questions. So in total, we were provided 20 questions. Now, out of those 4 RCs, 2 were super easy. In terms of it is just like a normal passage, you need to go through it, and the questions were based on straightforward the data, the whatever the data or the content was given in the passage. But with respect to the remaining 2 passages, I would say it was little time consuming and little tedious as well, based on the terms which were used. So you would need to go through it thoroughly and then answer. Like such questions was, what is author's perspective, or what would be the title from your side? So that type of question variety was there, and the language was little complicated as compared to the first 2 sets. So RC, out of 4 sets, 2 were super easy and 2 were, you can say, easy to moderate. Moving on with the next type of questions, we got fill in the blanks. Now, which we had practiced a lot in the classroom also. So fill in the blanks means a sentence is given and you need to fill with a proper appropriate word. So there were 3 questions of fill in the blanks. If I talk about idioms and phrases also, so as compared to the previous slots, this slot also we had 3 questions of idioms, wherein 3 idioms were provided, and you were supposed to put it into a normal term, that what would we call that, or how can you use it. Next was phrase replacement, a term which was given in bold. So out of the given 5 options, you need to find out which can be replaced there to make it, grammatically correct and meaningful also. Then a usage of the words. There were 2 such words given, 2 questions, I would say, wherein 1 word was given, and you need to find out of the 3 statements where the word is being used properly with respect to the meaning. Okay, a very simple, I mean, with respect to those who are good with the vocabulary, you should be able to solve these two questions thoroughly. Let us come to the grammar part, starting with the antonym, synonym. So antonym, we got 3 words, and synonym, we got 2 words. So in total, we had 5 with respect to antonym and synonym. And if I talk about the level of the words, so those who are reading on regular basis, for them, for sure, this would be easier. But let's say if you're not reading on regular basis and you're just preparing with respect to examination point of view, or maybe prior to that, or maybe a week at reading, so probably it would be little difficult for you to deal with. Then moving on with the next variety of questions which we had was change in voice and indirect speech. We got one question. Then one question was based on finding the correct spelled word. There were 5 such options and you need to find out which one is correctly spelled. Next was using one connector. Let's say one question was that, so you are provided with 2 statements, and out of the 5 options, which connector can be used to club these 2 statements? A simple one, a doable one. Moving on with then error. There were 3 such questions wherein we were supposed to find the error in the 4 parts A, B, C, D, and out of that you had one part with the error thing, and the 5th option was no error required or no error is there. So again, if somebody asks me the level of these varieties, so easy to moderate, I would say. Doable with respect to the value or the time handouts material. If anybody has done properly, you would be able to deal with these questions. One set was on match the following, column A, column B. You got three terms, and it was again very easy. Anybody, if you read just statement, you'll be able to find the answer. Next variety was grammatically correct sentence. So out of 3-4 sentences, you were supposed to find out which one is grammatically correct, and you were supposed to mark the answer. So there were such 3 questions in total, I would say. And out of these 3, 2 were easy and one was little moderate to understand. Next was sentence completion. What do I mean by sentence completion? A statement was given and the last part was being marked with a blank. And out of the options, you were supposed to complete the statement which makes a meaningful, meaning of that particular line. So that again, in total, we got 3 questions. So overall, this was the distribution of, let's say, all 50 questions. Now let us talk about the good attempts with respect to the students. So anybody who has practiced time material, time mocks, and time handout very properly, guys. So out of those 50 questions, very easy, you would be able to solve 35 to 38 questions. Remaining 10 to 15 questions, I'll just keep it moderate. As I said, 2 set of RCs were little moderate to understand. So you can consider those 10 questions and some few questions with respect to the word I said. So anybody who has practiced very well, so out of 50, you should be easily able to attempt 35 to 38 questions. And this I would consider as good attempt with respect to the students. Now, moving on with the next section, which is logical reasoning. So one of the easiest section with respect to all of you, because this is one of the sections wherein we try to score more and it has the highest weightage in as compared to other examinations. You got 75 questions for logical reasoning. So logical reasoning, with respect to my slot, I would just try to say something, because I find there was some technical glitch, because the moment I started with the logical reasoning, the very first question was of permutation and combination. So I think for this particular day and this particular slot, there was certain glitch between the quant section and the LR section, because I was able to see few questions of quants in LR and few questions of quants in LR. So that was there. And what do I mean by few questions? Approximately 2 to 3 questions. You won't believe, in my logical reasoning section, I was dealing with a set of DI with 3 questions. So I think for today's set of first lot, there was a technical glitch between quant and LR. Rest 2 sections were absolutely the way it was. But LR, there were permutation, probability, and DI questions, and progression questions in logical reasoning. So I'll just purely go with logical, and the remaining questions which I got in logical, I just club it to the quant section. So starting with the varieties. So let us go with the analytical reasoning, and the very first type is nothing but the letter series and the number series. So in total, we were provided with 5 questions. Out of those 5 questions, you can call 2 questions as speed breaker, because little time consuming, they were in decimals, and you were supposed to understand that how the decimal is being provided. Remaining 3 questions, if you just go on with the numbers with addition, normally addition, subtraction, value, you were able to reach out to the conclusion. So out of those 5 questions, I would say 3 were doable and 2 were little time consuming. Let us come to the analogy part. Now, analogy means A with respect to B, then C with respect to D is what. So again, out of that, I was provided with 4 questions, and out of those 4 questions, one was little trickier, remaining 3 were doable with respect to the students. So if you're able to just find out, though the numbers were large, guys, because the numbers were in thousands, so it might happen if you're not good with numbers, so probably will take slightly more time. But if you just observe the logic for the first 2, it was very easy to understand what the logic is going on, addition, subtraction, and the square based logic. So out of those 4 questions, 3 were doable and 1 was little difficult. Now let us come to the odd man out. So when I say odd man out, again, I was provided with 3 questions in this particular slot. And again, I would consider these 3 as very easy because it was very simple for me to find out which one is the odd one. There was one wrong series also. There was only one question of wrong series, and that was also doable. So anybody who, if you're able to understand how the numbers goes, or maybe you have paid attention to the classroom things, because all these questions, nothing was out of syllabus, nothing was beyond what the time material has. So anybody who has practiced very well and you have attended all the classes, sincerely, so you will be definitely able to solve these questions for sure. Moving on with the next type, which is direction sense. Now direction sense, in total, this section was wherein maximum questions, I would say, of direction sense I was dealing with. So almost 4 to 5 questions there were of direction sense, and parallel to that we got blood relations also. That was again 4 questions. Now what is surprising here, or not surprising, but I would say that the variety of the questions, we were getting one mark question as it is being followed for the first 2 days also. So as we were anticipating, probably we'll get a proper big set of blood relations, or as compared to the puzzles, or maybe a direction sense puzzle. So it wasn't that way. A very simple type, you can say a set of 3-4 lines, and then you're supposed to go with the question and mark the answer. So one mark question. So in total, direction sense also 4 questions, and blood relations also 4 to 5 questions. And if I talk about the level of these questions, yes, anybody who has practiced well, you should be able to solve. Not at all a difficult question to understand. So anybody who has practiced, you should be able to solve directions and blood relations of this particular slot, morning slot. Moving on with symbol notations. So in total, I was provided with 4 questions of symbol notations, out of which that was the interchange type, which is dominating throughout this Maharashtra CET series examination. So interchange means you are supposed to change the numbers or change the sign. So by using the board mass rule and all, you were supposed to solve that. So again, quick observation based variety, and the level of the questions were very easy. So if you just observe the numbers and if you know the trick which is being taught to you in the classroom, you'll be able to deal with this question very easily. Moving on, coding decoding, we were provided with 3 questions of coding decoding, and again these questions were easy to moderate, I would say doable, in terms of symbols were given and you were supposed to convert that and get the answer. So very easy for and students to solve that. Now coming to the input output variety, so as compared to what we deal in the handouts or what is being said, or earlier for the previous years test, we say input output, we are getting a set of, let's say, 5 questions, we are getting a set of 6 questions and all. So in total for today's slot, I was provided with 5 questions, and that was one mark question. So definitely, as compared to the previous slots also, this slot also, these 5 questions were individual question, guys. So every particular logic you are supposed to write the steps. So totally time consuming, I would say. The logic was simple though. For out of those 5 questions, 3 set or 3 particular questions were very simple. The moment you observe, you get the logic. But for the remaining 2 or 3, थोड़ा सा लिखना पड़ सकता था. So ये थोड़ा सा time consuming था. तो एक वही होगा बच्चों को जिनका LR आपका weak है, आपके सामने input output अगर सबसे पहले आता है, that is not something to be attempted on the first go. You could have done later it on, or probably just based on if you're good with this pace, you could have done. So out of those 5 sets, I would say 3 was very easy and 2 was little time consuming, wherein you were supposed to write all the steps and then get the answer. Moving on with the next, there were no questions on the clocks. Yes, we got 2 questions on calendars, and I would say that 1 question of calendars were in quant section and 1 question I got it in LR section. So in total, I was provided with calendars question, and again it is doable. Surprisingly, it is one of those questions which we already have in our handout. So one question was, which is the replica of 2010 कैलेंडर. तो वेरी सिंपल, मतलब सारे क्वेश्चंस ऐसे ही थे जो आपने ऑलरेडी हैंड आउट में किए हुए हैं, वही वैरायटीज आपको मिले होंगे. सो कैलेंडर्स वी गॉट 2 क्वेश्चंस. वेन डायग्राम, easy to moderate, guys, not at all a very difficult. wherein you were supposed to calculate a lot. Not, we were provided with three simple questions, one mark question, and doable. Moving on with order ranking, my particular slot, it dominates with order ranking because almost I got 4 to 5 questions of order ranking. Now, what do I mean by order ranking? The position from the left side, the right side, the bottom, the top. So certain 5 questions were there, and yes, easier questions. I would say those questions were easy, and you just need to understand the data and solve that question. So 1 mark question, doable properly. Order ranking, we got total 4 to 5 questions. Cubes, if I say, so we were provided with two similar questions of cubes. One was counting the number of cubes in the figure, and the second was what would be the opposite face of 6 in the cube. So simple variety, still doable. So if anybody has practiced this chapter thoroughly through the book only, or maybe the handout itself, you should be able to manage these two questions. Data sufficiency was there. We got 5 questions of data sufficiency. Statement 1, statement 2 were given, very simple statements were given, and you were supposed to just find out whether it is sufficient or not. Easy to moderate, I would say. 5 questions. Then moving on, what requires more attention is the critical reasoning. So we got 7 questions of critical reasoning with assertion and reason. Almost all the questions were based on assertion and reason only. So if you are good with that, or you might have practiced a lot, so you should be able to solve these questions thoroughly. Then moving on with one type which was again dominating, and which we have in our handout, which comes under the miscellaneous part, guys. So miscellaneous, in total we had almost 7 to 8 questions, or probably 10 questions, I would say, out of which 5 questions are based on to arrange them into the meaningful order. 5 terms were given and they were interrelated, and you were supposed to find out the logic between them and arrange them. Again, very easy. If you just go with the terms and you're aware of the terms, you were able to solve. Nothing out of the box or out of the syllabus. Very similar to what we have dealt in the handouts or in the classroom sessions. So in total, you are provided almost 10 questions or miscellaneous. Let us come to the last part, wherein I said I was provided with DI, which I'll be considering into quant. And let us come to the last thing, which is analytical puzzles. Now, if I talk about puzzles in total, so puzzles, surprisingly, what the pattern is being followed for the first 2 days, that is again followed in the three also, that we are provided with one-liner puzzles, and some of the puzzles was way to, the reading part, it was so tedious, so taxing. Thoroughly you need to read a lot, and that is on one question based on it. Totally waste of time. That means with respect to the students, these are speed breakers which are given to consume your time. So almost in total, if I talk about comparison, we got one set, only one question. Distribution, you were provided with one question. Then linear arrangement, we got one question. Quant based reasoning, I would say there were 3 to 4 questions, and easier way, doable. So anybody who has practiced, or maybe you might have practiced a lot for the puzzles, because every year, the passages of long passages of 5 marks, but here these were one liners and doable. So in total, this is the distribution of all 75 questions which we are talking about. Now let us go with the good attempts with respect to the students. So out of these 75, anybody who has practiced really well, you should be able to manage or maybe able to solve minimum 55 to 60 questions for sure. The remaining 10 to 15 questions, I would say, based on those long passages which were given as compared to the puzzles or similar way of puzzles. So that was not to be attempted really, because that is totally waste of time. Remaining all the questions were doable. So anybody who has done a good practice, you have gone through thoroughly with the whole this section, then you must be able to solve 50 to 55 questions, approximately 60 questions for sure out of the 75. So the good attempt I would consider from 55 to 60, guys, for this particular section. And moving on with the last section, which is quantitative ability. Now, this is one of those sections. Those who are good with the calculations, they like it very much, and somewhere most of them, let's say we are not good with the calculations, so आप इसको थोड़ा सा delayed way में रखते हैं. So quant section, again we got 50 questions in total, and the level of the questions, if I talk about, and let us talk about the topics. So the topics which were not considered for my particular slot, I will directly start with that. So there were no questions of geometry at all in my slot. So there was no question of geometry. Now, if I talk about the number of questions, I got the distribution for each of the topic, the arithmetic part. Let us start with the ratio, proportion, variation. I was provided with one question. There were 2 questions based on ages. Then we got 2 questions on percentages, 3 questions on profit and loss. And again, the level of the question, out of these 3 or 2 questions, guys, 2 questions are doable and one was little calculative. That means you need to go with the whole data. Some questions were doable in 1 minute or 50 seconds. You just need to get the value and solve. But few questions were taking more than 1 minute or 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. So out of these three, you can say two were easier, wherein one was little time taking or maybe speed breaker, as you always say. Now coming to the time work, as in the previous slots, time work was dominating, but in my slot, I hardly got 2 questions of time and work, 3 questions of time and distance. Out of time and distance, 1 question was based on properly to find the average speed, 1 question was based on boats and streams, and one was based on circular track. I got 3 questions of time and distance, one on circular tracks, one on this uh, average to find the average speed, and the 1 question was based on boats and streams. So again, these questions were doable, but little time taking because they were little calculative, I would say. I won't say it is something you can get in seconds. There was conversion of units and then you were supposed to get the answer. So little time consuming, but doable. Nothing as such wherein you were not able to solve. Then coming to pipe and cistern, which is a part of time and work. So 1 question, surprisingly, we got the question of pipe and cistern. Then let us talk about numbers. Yes, numbers, if I say, I got 4 questions of numbers. And again, let me clear this. We got 1 question. The handout of time, if you have solved very much, so the first or the second handout wherein we have started with, let us say you're supposed to type from 100 to 10,000. So how many times you see the number 3? Or 3 is typed how many times? In time handout, rather than 3, we have made it 5. And you have got the same question as it is question. The only thing is the answer remains same. You just need to replace 5 with 3. That was the question, guys. So I was very much happy to see that probably the students might have dealt with the question very easily because we made them practice these questions and it is already in our handout. So that's one fantastic thing. So very simple. As I said, numbers 4 question. One was based on to find the HCF of the fractions, again, which is mentioned in the handouts. So nothing goes beyond the handout, guys. Nothing goes beyond the handout. Let us come to the progression. 1 question of progression, which I got, it was related to something, some of the numbers, some of the series till 2007. Let's say a number having nth position of 2007, you were supposed to find, and the series goes with this pattern 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 and so on. So the sum of the series till 2007th position, what would be the sum? So progressions also, because we gave you the formulas and you know how to solve such questions, so it was doable but little calculative for those who don't know, or maybe you're taking you're weak at calculation. So थोड़ा सा time calculation में लग सकता है, otherwise it was doable. Moving on with data sufficiency, if I say, so data sufficiency in quant section also, I was provided with 4 questions for sure. And these questions were very simple with respect to the data which is given, but you need to consider both the statements individually and together. So most of the questions, when you read the question itself, you are able to relate that you require both the statements to answer the question. So someone who is good with the concepts, you are not supposed to solve the whole question. Just reading the statement, you are able to understand which statement will give you the answer, whether it is sufficient or not. So I would moderate these 4 questions as easy to doable. Moving on with mensuration. So I got 2 questions of mensuration. One was based on the rectangle, area based questions, technically a very simple variety. So the perimeter was given, the diagonal was given, you were supposed to find the area. So it was purely based on the formula. You need to just substitute and get the value. So doable again. SICR, yeah, it was little calculative, I would say, because SICR, 1 question was based on compound interest, which we were supposed to calculate, and 1 question was based on SI, which is doable. So out of these two, one was little time consuming, the other was not. Coming to permutation combination, we got 3 questions. As I said, 1 question was already into LR. Probability, I got 2 questions in total. Again, doable. Nothing goes beyond syllabus. Very simple. If you understand the question, you'll be able to solve that. So in total, and last goes with the DI, wherein we had 3 DI sets, and out of those 3 DI sets, 2 were super easy, guys, means not very calculative or intensive calculation based, but you were able to manage if you read the question, go on with the data. 1 was based on the pie chart, 2 were based on the tabular form, 1 was based on the tabular form, and 1 was little trickier with the caselet type. You need to read the data and then you're supposed to answer. So that was little calculative. So in total, these were 15 questions of DI which we had, and most of the questions were based on to find the ratio or the average or the percentage. That's it. So in total, I would say this particular section, if anybody says what should be the good attempts value, so out of 50 you should be able to manage 30 to 35 questions. I'll consider this particular set into form of easy to moderate. I won't say the whole section was absolutely easy, but yes, it was easy to moderate, wherein most of the questions were little tacky and time consuming. So this comes into the moderate category, but few question one liners were little simpler. So as I said, out of 50 you should be able to manage 30 to 35 questions for sure, not more than that, if you're not that much good with quants. So this was the overall analysis for the paper pattern for this particular slot, 8th April first slot. So just going on with the overall review. So I would consider this whole paper to be on the side of easier to moderate. Some of the questions were little difficult, but I consider this to be easy to moderate variety, not thoroughly easy, not very difficult. It comes into the moderate type. So anybody who is attempting all 200 questions, so what should be the good attempt in total? So out of 200, you should be easily able to manage 150 questions for sure. 150 to 160 you should be able to manage with the genuine attempts if you have a good speed, right? So that's it for the analysis. Few points which I would like to because add on, that is one thing, the interface thing, wherein I felt the problem was because it was consuming a lot of time to read the question throughout the screen for the TI as well as verbally. You need to scroll up and down, left and right throughout. So that is one thing which we felt wherein the time was wasted. And the second thing I told you, wherein I felt that for this particular slot, there was the glitch between the quant and LR section. Few questions of quants were in LR and few questions of LR were in quant. So that's it for the analysis, guys. And I hope you performed really well. Wishing all the best for the next slot. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.